Good to be with you this Friday morning. I want to start off by wishing everybody a happy Groundhog Day. I got online and looked, and apparently Punxsutawney Phil has already seen his shadow, and he's predicting 6 more weeks of winter. I know as I saw that, I thought, well, maybe we'll just get 6 weeks of winter, because our winter so far hasn't been all that wintry. And the only challenge we have there is we certainly do need to have the snowpack in the mountains. So Punxsutawney Phil tells us there'll be at least 6 more weeks of possibility for that. I want to make you aware that there's going to be council meetings this coming week on Wednesday. We will have a council study session at 4 o'clock and then a regular council meeting at 6 o'clock. Sure invite anybody who'd like to come and participate with that and find out some of the things that are going on in the city. Watch how these things happen to come and participate with us. It's always good to have the public come and be part of that process with us. Also just wanted to make mention that our 64th Idaho legislature is well into their session now. They've been meeting for a little over a month. A lot of things happening, and I just want to encourage everybody to get more involved there. They've made it easier this year to track than it's ever been. As I've been tracking bills, we have things that are happening tax-wise that are going to affect all of us. Look what's being talked about and what's being debated and become part of helping us find the right solutions. They're talking about a lot of health and education bills, things that will truly have an effect with you and me. There's 2 specialized things that I don't know that I've heard before. One of them, it's been a while. I think it's been talked about, but it's coming up again. But that is a constitutional convention called by the states, and known as Article 5. There's a lot of ins and outs about that. There's pros and cons. There's people on both sides of this issue. I would suggest that each of us, as citizens of this state, become aware of exactly what the implications of that would be. Again, get involved with that. Talk to your legislative people. Find out what they're discussing at the state level. But they're being asked to be one of the states to put their hat in the ring and call for a constitutional convention. I've heard from both sides as to the pros and cons. Whether this would be a good idea and whether it would not be a good idea. And so again, each of us needs to get involved, find out what that entails, and talk to your legislative people about that. Become involved. The other one is that the state is talking about a constitutional law for stand your ground. I think a lot of us have heard exactly that kind of legislation, but what it would look like in the state of Idaho. It's important for you to get involved, become familiar with that bill, and make a determination as to whether you would be supportive or not. And again, talk to your legislative folks, and they certainly need to hear from us. They represent us, and about the only way they can truly represent us is if we're talking to them. I want to make a report to you about our SASA program, and that might be an interesting term to you. I've talked to you about it before, but let me remind you what that is. 18 cities and 12 counties came together a few years ago and put together what is known as a Special Assistant United States Attorney. This actually is part of the U.S. Department of Justice, and we were given an opportunity to team up with our Idaho Department of Corrections and hire this special U.S. attorney to do some federal prosecution for some major crime that's happening in our area. It has been very successful. Let me just report to you some of the numbers that were reported to us last Monday. They have tried 75 defendants. These trials happen in federal court, not in our local or state courts. They have 40 sentences that have come up to a total of 2,391 months of imprisonment. And let me tell you what that means. We've got 40 of the bad players in our region who've been sentenced in a federal court and sent to federal prison outside the state of Idaho. So we're getting those folks out of our communities. But one of the most impressive numbers is so far we have been able to save the Idaho State Department of Corrections $4,189,000 in what it would cost if we'd had to prosecute those folks at the state level instead of the federal level. So this has become a very successful program. If you have questions, again, ask. You can ask a lot of us. I'd be glad to talk to anybody who'd like to find out more about what's known as our Eastern Idaho Partnership with our special U.S. Attorney. Again, it's been very successful. Our surveys are winding up. We're grateful for those who have participated. We've got some youth, some of the students from the high school who are coming down and helping us hand deliver some now. And if you happen to be one of the random folks who's going to get one of those, we encourage you to fill those out and get those turned in. We're grateful for everybody who's put time and effort into helping us put these surveys together. These are coming together to help us determine what the direction of this community should be. So again, get involved there. Make sure that your voice is heard at this time. What a great community we live in. It's just a great pleasure to serve in the city of Chubbuck. The positive attitude that we have out there. We had a grand opening of Smith's this week, and that was a lot of fun to participate with. They've still got some wonderful sales that are going on over there, and if you haven't gone over and seen what they've done in the remodel and upgrade of their store, I'd encourage you to go look at that. We have some great and wonderful things happening in this community, but most importantly, we've got an active and involved citizenry who is supportive of the good things that are happening. We're headed in some real interesting directions as a community as we look forward to some growth. And just grateful for each of your willingness to participate and help us make determinations as to the direction that this community should go and what we want to look like in the coming years. So grateful to be with you today. Again, happy Groundhog Day. Enjoy yourself, and we'll see you next Friday.